Okay, today we have Brother Bob here. He's an author, street evangelist, and he's a ex-veteran. And we have him here today, and we're going to do a little discussion on his book, his life, and his nonprofit organization. So take it away, Brother Bob.
Aloha. This park here, Thomas Square Park, I was homeless in for on and off for 3.5 years. I was homeless for a total of 13 years. I moved here because 4 of my brothers had come down to California. I was living down there on the streets for a number of years, and they figured they didn't come and get me, that sooner or later I was going to end up dead or in a hospital or in prison, which in most cases, alcoholics and drug users, that's where they usually end up. I was an alcoholic. My drug of choice was alcohol. So they came down and got me, and they said they could put me to work here in Hawaii and everything would be fine. And it was up until 3.5 months later. I had a brother who was very close to me, and he wasn't only my blood brother, but he was my best friend and my Vietnam brother. So it was like I lost 3 in 1 there. His name was George, and after being sober for 3.5 months, I just lost it again. So I went homeless again and ended up here. Used to live in the condos 5 blocks from here, but my brothers threw me out because I started to drink. And closest area to push a cart full with my stuff in was right to here, so this was my home. Matter of fact, the restrooms here weren't fixed up. The concrete, they started to work on it, and the concrete was all tore up, and there's rats in there. But it was a place to sleep out of the rain. So you sleep there with the rats. You wake up some in the morning and find rats by your feet. It was a life that I wouldn't want to see on anyone. But what was really extraordinary about it was how it all turned around. My wife likes to say to her friends or to her family that God had taken me from the streets to the elite. And she says that because now I help the homeless, and I associate with people like representatives and senators and congressmen, and try to encourage them to help me to help the homeless and the veterans. But what had happened is that when I asked God into my life, He actually came into my life. He audibly spoke to me. Now, most people would say that's impossible, but there's thousands of people that God has talked to that people just don't believe Him because they'll say, well, he's insane or he's crazy. But God audibly spoke to me, and He told me a number of things, and all those things have come true. I've been clean and sober now since 95, right. I was 45 years old. I wrote this book about those years 10 years later. It's called I Love You, But. And the reason it's called I Love You, But is because they were in the form of letters to friends and family and acquaintances. And I end each story, at the end of each story it says, I love you, but I could never love you as much as He does. I'm not a minister, although I would prefer that, but that's not what God wants. God would rather have me go out and talk to the homeless, talk to the veterans, and encourage them to go forward, to try and motivate them and try to help them in any way possible. Right now I have an outreach. It's called Songs of the Children, and you can go online to songsofthechildren.org and see what we do. We help people in distress here from the mainland. If they have a home and a job to go to back on the mainland, we'll try to help them get a ticket, get a flight home. And we call their family and encourage them, and we call it a place where they're going to go to work and thank them for the job. We make sure everything is on the up and up because we don't want any con jobs. I had a guy here just last week He was flown here from New York City on the plan that I do, but the state was doing it. New York City was doing it. And he had told them that he had a friend in Hawaii that would let him stay here and put him to work, but of course, he had just called his friend and told him to make up this story. I didn't know that at the time when he called me. But after asking him a few questions, I sensed that something was wrong. And I told him to get back with me in a day or two. Well, the next day I happened to be on the computer looking up things on the computer concerning homeless and veterans. And there he was on the computer in an interview with the newspaper here in Honolulu, telling what I just told you. And I couldn't believe it. So I called the caravan, said if this guy comes back in, tell him to call me. He called me just yesterday. It's extraordinary that this film is being made today. He had called me just yesterday and said, oh, I heard that you had called. Can you help me get a flight to LA? And I said, Tony, I hear you're a star. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I saw you on a computer. He said, what do you mean? I said, I saw you down at Waikiki telling the Honolulu Advertiser that your con job to get over here from New York so you can live on the beach, live the life of Riley, do your drugs and alcohol here. Boy, I could have swore I heard him hit the ground, pass out. Just kidding. No, he was shocked. He said, how'd you find that out? I said, it's on the computer. But anyways, things like that from my years of experience of being homeless, I can, and not only that, but God telling me that something's not right. He gives you that sixth sense, of course, the Holy Spirit, some call it. Anyway, we do that. We help these folks. So far, we've helped 26 people. Representative Mizuno has had us in his office and had the news cameras there. Maybe some of you have seen me on there asking the public for help. We sent this one woman and her children, her 3 children, back to Georgia because she was in an abusive relationship and they were homeless and they had to get out right away. There are many that have stories that are just tear jerkers and you just really want to help them. I just sent 3 veterans, the last 3 men I sent off. 2 of them just here last Thursday. They're veterans going back to the mainland, live with family or friends and working. One's going to a trade school to drive heavy equipment. And they call me when they land. They call me and a day later or 2 days later and tell me how things are going. It's very encouraging. And then also we take a 16-foot by 9-foot air-blown screen and we take it to shelters and show motivational movies, motivational/inspirational movies. When I was homeless in California, Southern California, there are many nights, many rainy nights there in the wintertime, cold and wet. So to get out of the rain, I would go to a movie theater and I would ask to speak to the manager. And I'd tell him my position, my predicament. And I'd say, listen, if you just let me clean the aisles, wash the windows, vacuum your floors, whatever it is that you want me to do, I'll do that. And in return, you let me see this certain movie that I would want to see and give me something to eat. And 99% of the time, they would do it. But each movie, I say whatever movie I'd pick at that time, because each time I'd do that, I'd make sure it was a movie that was inspiring or is encouraging, or is a true story, something that would lift me up, that would take my mind off of the anger and the frustrations I had from my past life, from Vietnam, from my childhood, from rape and broken bones, all the pain and suffering. It would take all that away and let me focus in on just trying to lift myself up so I could be a better person. But you can't do that if you don't want to. And I didn't realize that until George died. When George died, I went homeless for 4 years, but God said the 5th year everything will change and you will start doing my work. And that was in 1995, and I have been doing that ever since. That's why 97 I wrote this book. Oh no, it wasn't 97, it was 2007 I wrote the book. But 97 I started the nonprofit, Songs of the Children. When I get into a position or a time in my life when I think things are going too slow, when I'm not helping enough people, when no one's calling saying they need help back to the mainland, or no one, or if it's too filled up at the U.S. Vets Barbers Point, I can't show a movie, or shelter in Waianae. If things are tied up, then I say to God, well, what am I supposed to do now? I start getting frustrated. And at one of these times, I said, well, wouldn't it be great if I could make that film you've always wanted me to make? I tried making a film with the public television over on the Big Island. My wife and I became producers over there and filmed at church events. But I tried making I made a 14-minute clip about my life, and I took portions of movies out of it and put music with it. But times have changed. That was 17 years ago, 16 years ago, and everything's computerized now, and I wouldn't have any idea how to do that. So I just prayed and said, how could we make a film? The next morning I'm on the computer and I see Craigslist. I see on there that some producer, a guy from who used to work at one of the news stations, he said that he was looking for a project. And I thought, well, look at this. The very next day, God had sent me a producer. And that's why I'm here today. Mark and I met last week, a couple weeks ago at Starbucks. And we thought, well, why not here in this park where I spent so many miserable years, where this is basically where it ended as well. I was right against that wall over there in the corner of Ward and Baratania here, laying on the ground, and I had a seizure. I didn't know this at the time. This is a story I was told by other homeless people. I was laying in the corner and I had a seizure and I was dying. And this friend of mine who's no longer around, that's another sad story. But anyway, him and I always watch each other's backs, and I do remember him saying to me, will you please just let me call the cops, let me get you out of here, you're gonna die. And he had tears in his eyes. I remember saying, okay, that was the last thing I remember. The next thing I know, I'm waking up at Tripler Hospital, and they had all these IVs in me, and I didn't know how many days I'd been in there, how many days I'd been incoherent. And finally, when they came to, they told me what had happened, and the phone rang. And it was one of my brothers over on the Big Island, my oldest brother. And he said, listen, I had a miniature stroke, and I could use your help over here. When you get out of Tripler, why don't you come over and you try to get straight? And this was Jerry. And Jerry and George and I were like the three musketeers for years. We did everything together. Worked together, partied together, fought together. I felt I owed him, and I said, well, listen, I'll let you know in the morning. Call me in the morning. The next morning he called, and I don't know why, but I instantly said, yeah, I'll be there today, and I hung up the phone. And I just ripped out the IVs. A nurse came in and said, what are you doing? She went and grabbed the doctor. Mr. Dunham, you leave here now. Next time you leave this place, it'll be in a body bag. You can't do this to yourself any longer. And I said, I'm sorry, but I have to go. That's all I know. I know I'm supposed to leave. I went out of the hospital, and I felt something really different had changed. Something had happened. Got on the plane and went to the Big Island, and I was helping my brother for about 6 or 7 days, and I felt the Lord was telling me to go to Kona, and I didn't know why. I get to Kona, and I pick up a phone to ask for some help, and it just happened to be Caravan. And Caravan said, sure, we have a place where you can stay. 6 other guys, it's like a halfway house. You just, go out and look for work, get straight. And I hung up that phone, and I knew, I felt it in the hospital when I left the hospital, but I wasn't sure. Because I couldn't understand it, but I knew right then that I'd never want to drink again. I knew that God had totally taken away the desire of alcohol. And he has, totally. That was 1995. And it was the 5th year. Just like he had said, the 5th year, everything will change. You will start working for me. And ever since then, it's been miracle after miracle. I mean, and they are miracles. People say, well, a miracle isn't something, it's not a miracle unless you have 2 broken legs, you wake up in the morning and you have 2 complete legs. Miracles are what is astonishing. Things that you could never anticipate happening. That's a miracle. And people have miracles all the time, and they don't give the due diligence where it belongs, and they should, but many do. And many who know God, they instantly fall to their knees and thank Him. But I'm not a minister. I'm a servant. I'm a soldier. I like to tell my non-vet brothers, I said, I'm not a preacher. I'm just a soldier of God. He just took me out of the uniform and carrying the weapons to put me in street clothes and carrying the Bible. It's an amazing life. And if I can just somehow convey this message to the veterans and the homeless, and that is this: no matter what you do, no matter what your ideas are, no matter how hard you try, no matter where you go, you are never going to be doing what you want, never going to be doing what it is you're here on earth to do unless you ask Him what it is that you're here for. He has a purpose for all of us. You just have to find out what it is. And the only way to find out is to ask. When I asked, I met my wife down at Waikiki. I was going down to the pier there. I was sober. This is when I first got here. And I was sober, and I was going down to the beach, and I was listening to oldies but goodies on the pier down there at Waikiki. And I left the pier, and I was walking up toward the police station there, and there's a homeless woman laying on a bench sleeping. And I took some money and I put it in her coat pocket so when she woke up, she'd have some coffee or some breakfast, you know. And it just so happened that this woman had coming toward me had seen me. Her name was Ruth. And she said, I saw what you did. Are you born again Christian? And oh no, here's another one of those holy rollers. How am I going to get away from this? But we start talking. She was attractive, she was intelligent, and she was funny. So I thought, well, sure, I'll stick around, see what she has to say. We stayed up all night talking. All night. We both had to work in the morning. And she asked me if I go to church with her that coming Sunday, and I agreed, and I went. And I told God, if you're real, you're going to have to hit me over the head with a sledgehammer. And church was over, we walked out, and Ruth said, how do you feel? Do you feel any different? And I said, well, how am I supposed to feel? Am I supposed to have goosebumps? Am I supposed to get a halo? Am I supposed to be jumping up and down? What are you talking about? And she said, well, you go ahead and make fun, but you'll see. We went and got a newspaper, a Sunday newspaper. I had a little convertible MG then. Like I say, I was sober, so I had plenty of money. I had a nice little convertible MG, nice little classic, because I had stopped drinking. The only thing I was missing was God, and I didn't know that until we pulled into the zoo parking lot, and I'm sitting there, and it was just like, boom, just like something hit me over the head with a sledgehammer. It wasn't painful or nothing. I just knew it was like a boom, but it wasn't a boom, and God started talking to me, and everything He said has happened. It's just amazing. I try to explain it in my book the best way I can, but you can't explain it. It's any minister, any person who's been born again, they'll tell you the same thing. They'll remember the exact day it happened, but they'll never be able to explain in words the effect that it has. They can tell you the cause, they can tell you what's happened since, but they'll never be able to explain in detail or make it perfectly clear what it is that happened. You can't explain it. It's out of this world, literally. And I try to explain that in the book, but I tell them in the book, not a word of this is false in this book, just like the Bible. So why would I lie? There's nothing to my advantage of lying. There's nothing that's going to promote me by telling you this truth. It's just something that's so special that you want to share it. You want everybody to know what it's like. It's like seeing a great movie. You go and tell all your friends, you tell your family, you got to see this, you got to see this. People get excited and they see it. If they could get that same enthusiasm without being on their deathbed, you know, if a normal person would come up to me and he was sitting here listening to this, and he said, after this is over here, and he says to me, Bob, I want to do that. I want to ask God into my life. I want to know what it is that He's all about. I want to know what the purpose of my being here is. I tell him, you know, just ask for forgiveness of his sins. Tell God that you know Jesus died for your sins. You ask for forgiveness of yours, and say, I want to help. I want to do what you want me to do. I want to know what I'm here for. I want to do what you want me to do. It's that simple. But sadly, 98% of the population, they wait until they're dead, on their deathbed, before they ask God into their life and ask for forgiveness. By then, it's too late. I mean, God may forgive them. I mean, He will forgive them, but you don't know if you're going to live or die. If you live, it's another miracle, but if you die, you go to heaven, but it's not something you con your way into. I mean, if you think you're gonna have fun and jam and rock and roll all your time here, and then wait till you're 80 years old and you know it's getting close to dying, you say, God, will you forgive me? And you say, hey, listen, I've been watching your scam game, your con for years. It's too late. But, you know, all I can do is just tell the way it happened to me. All I can do is let you know that you can make a difference in your life. You can make a change that knock your socks off. And it'll shock your family, your friends, your neighbors. You won't be the same person. You'll have a life. You'll be off the streets. You'll stop thinking about Vietnam. You'll stop wanting that drink. You stop wanting to shoot that heroin. You stop wanting to go to a strip house and hang out with prostitutes. It's it's amazing. It's amazing. I wish there was some kind of a pill I could give to you that would let you feel the way that I feel and so many others feel that have asked the Lord into their life. But I can't. So all you can do is just take it for what it's worth, for what I'm telling you. I'm an example. I'm sitting here as an example of his works. My wife is an example. I could give you so many examples. I could go on and on about all the things that he's done for me. From healing me to taking away addictions to blessing my mother. It's amazing. And I hope that somehow Songs of the Children can help as many as possible. If you see this film out there and you say to yourself, well, I'm going to go and check Songs of the Children out, songsofthechildren.org, and I'm going to help get some of these folks back to the mainland so they can get back on their feet, so they can find out what their purpose in life is. That's what this is all about. It's about love. We're here to love one another. We're here to help one another and love one another. It's the only reason. You have a purpose, and that is to love. That's what Jesus was, love. Last time I was in Nevada, just my wife and I were in Ross's. And they had a little jewelry case. I saw this cross, and it said, love. That's all it says on it is love. That's what Jesus was all about. He was about love. That's what we're all about. We're all about loving one another, helping one another as much as we can. I don't know how much more time I have. Mark,
We got about a couple minutes.
couple of minutes.
Yeah, maybe 2.
I wish I had words of wisdom that somebody like Abe Lincoln or Winston Churchill or John Kennedy would say. But the wise man once said, "Speak little, speak wise," and that was Jesus. Wisest of them all. Wisest of them all. I put my foot in my mouth enough without trying to sit here and try to think up some wisdom to lay on you, but I do have this to say. There are many organizations here in Hawaii who are trying to help the homeless right now and the veterans. And I've worked with many of them. I've met so many pastors and so many outreaches, so many people who are trying so hard. A lot of them are Christians, some of them aren't. I don't know, I don't ask them. But the main thing is that they have heart. If you need help, get in touch with some of these people. Get off the street. I'm telling you, life on the street is not worth it. If you're a veteran, call U.S. Vets, Barbers Point. Call U.S. Vets, Waianae. Call me. I've got connections. I can help you. Maybe we can get you back to the mainland. We'll call your family. We'll get you a job. There's so many different things that we can do if we help each other. If we just do what God says and just love each other and help each other. Get to these shelters. There might be bed bugs, big deal. Getting some kind of ointment or spray to kill a bed bug is much more preferable to me. I wish I would have done that when I was homeless. Back when I was homeless, they didn't have this stuff. Well, they had shelters, but believe me, the shelters in LA, Long Beach, I mean, these places here are castles. These shelters here are castles compared to those ones in LA back 25 years ago. But you can fight them. You can't fight the people on the streets. There's guns, knives, drugs. Always watching your back. At least in the shelter, it's a start. You can take a shower, change clothes, you can look for work. There's people that can give you help, advise you how to look for a job, where to look for a job, help you get a bus schedule, help you get clothes, help you get the nutrition you need. Many, many places out there that want to help you. If you're having a problem, give me a call. 664-4329, 664-4329, or my cell, 265-9024, 265-9024. Or go on the webpage, songsofchildren.org, and look us up. And there's a phone number on there you can call as well. For those of you folks who want to help us by donating, there's PayPal online. You can go to PayPal, or there's an address there. There's a P.O. box. You know, when I first started this out, I knew a pastor who had written this book, and he ended up being my pastor all the time on the Big Island. He used a P.O. box, and I said, why? That makes it look like a scam, you know, if you ask for donations. He said, if I don't, Bob, the people that I help are going to be coming through my door. So, I don't want, my wife said, Bob, you help all the people you want, just don't have them come to our doors, sleeping in our backyard. We don't have that much room or that much money. So I have a P.O. box. A P.O. box on there. There's there's an address, website you can email me, or there's a phone number you can call. Let's give a hand up, not a handout. Let's work together and give a hand up, not a handout. That's what we're doing. We're giving a hand up. I'm getting nothing. I won't tell you how much I spent doing this over the last 19 years. But believe me, I don't need any money. God provides everything I need. The more I give, the more He gives back. It's a true story. Churches will tell you that. You may not believe it, but you go in there, you ask God for help, and He'll show you. You give out 20 bucks, or you give out the shirt on your back, God will give you $100 and a new wardrobe. Thank you very much. Much mahalo. I love you, but I could never love you as much as he does. Much mahalo.